My wife cheated with her boss, and after I caught them, she convinced me to sign over our $500, $0 house and a 401k worth $200, $0, only for her to suddenly accuse me of embezzlement and sue me for half the property, claiming I was trying to hide assets. I never saw it coming. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, honestly. My wife, Jessica, had always been the kind of woman who could turn heads, confident, sharp, and fiercely independent. We'd been married for 10 years, and I thought we had a good life. We had a beautiful house worth $500,000, a solid 401k that I'd been building since I got my first job, and what I believed was a stable, loving marriage. But everything changed in an instant, and I still can't wrap my head around how fast it all unraveled. It started subtly. Jessica had been acting a little distant. Lately, more preoccupied, spending a lot of time on her phone. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she was stressed at work or just tired. But then I noticed her getting defensive when I asked about her day, and she started canceling plans last minute. Small things, really, but enough to make me suspicious. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I trusted her. I wanted to believe everything was fine. One day, I decided to check her phone out of curiosity. I know, that's not exactly the most mature thing to do, but I couldn't shake this feeling that something was off. I had no idea what I was expecting to find, but I needed to know. I grabbed her phone when she was in the shower, unlocked it, and started scrolling through her messages. That's when I saw it. A message from her boss, Mark, that made my stomach drop. It was a text saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Thinking about last time," followed by a winky emoji. That was enough. I stared at it for a long moment, feeling this strange mix of disbelief and anger. My wife, Jessica, was having an affair with her boss. The guy she'd been working with for the past year, the one she always said was just a friend, was more than that. And apparently they'd been sneaking around behind my back for months. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those nights she claimed she was working late, all those hours she spent at business dinners. I now knew they were lies. I started digging deeper. There was more. Texts, photos, even some secret emails, evidence that she and Mark had been intimate on more than one occasion. I found a picture of her in his office, half-dressed, with a caption that read, "Can't wait to be alone with you again." That was the moment I knew my marriage was done. I was furious, but I also felt numb. My mind was racing, trying to process how the woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, could betray me like this. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly a little stupid. How had I missed all the signs? How had I been so blind? I kept asking myself if I had missed the clues, if I had been too trusting, or if Jessica had simply been a different person all along. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I stayed up, staring at her phone, replaying everything I'd found. I felt a strange mixture of heartbreak and rage. I knew I had to face her soon, but I wasn't sure what I was going to say or do. All I knew was that everything was about to change, and I was caught in the middle of a storm I never saw coming. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was still spinning from everything I'd uncovered. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't eat, and every time I looked at Jessica, I saw her differently. She was still sleeping peacefully beside me, pretending everything was normal, but I knew better. I knew the truth now, and it felt like a punch to the chest every time I looked at her. I decided I couldn't keep quiet any longer. I needed to confront her, get everything out in the open. I waited until she was in the kitchen, pouring herself a cup of coffee. I took a deep breath, tried to steady my voice. And then I just blurted it out. "Jessica, I know about you and Mark. I saw the messages. I know what's been going on." She froze for a moment, then turned around with that fake, innocent look she always put on when she was trying to act like she had no idea what I was talking about. Her eyes, normally sharp and confident, flickered with guilt and annoyance. "Oh, come on, David," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're overreacting. It's not what you think. That was just a stupid mistake. It doesn't mean anything." Doesn't mean anything. You've been sleeping with your boss, Jessica. Do you even hear yourself? How can you say it doesn't mean anything? She scoffed, crossing her arms. You're being dramatic. It's not like I'm leaving you or anything. I was just stressed and Mark was there for me. It's not a big deal. I felt my blood boil. How could she lie so easily? How could she dismiss it like that? I looked her straight in the eyes and told her, that's bullshit. You've been having an affair. For months, I want the truth, Jessica. Just tell me the damn truth. She hesitated, then sighed loudly as if I was wasting her time. Fine, she said with that snarky tone she always used when she thought she was winning an argument. Yes, I cheated, but it doesn't mean I want to leave you. I was just looking for something, I don't know, excitement. You're so boring sometimes, David. You work all the time, you don't pay attention to me. Mark was just easier. That cut deep. I felt like I'd been punched again. Boring, that's what she called me. I had always been the stable, dependable one. The guy who worked hard, paid the bills, and expected loyalty in return. And now she's telling me she cheated because I was boring. I couldn't believe I was hearing this. My mind was racing, trying to process how I'd gone from husband of the year to a guy who was apparently too dull for his own wife. I asked her how long this had been going on, and she shrugged like it was nothing. A few months, maybe. It's not like I planned it. It just happened. I wanted to scream. Instead, I walked out of the kitchen and sat on the couch. I felt numb again, like I'd been kicked in the stomach all over again. My entire world was shattering. I thought about everything we had, our house, our savings, the years we built together. And now it all felt like it was crumbling at my feet. I realized I had to make a choice. Do I stay and try to work through this? Do I forgive her and pretend everything's okay? Or do I cut my losses and walk away? The anger inside me was boiling, but beneath it there was a deep sadness I couldn't shake. I loved her, or at least I thought I did, but this betrayal changed everything. I was hurt, betrayed, and confused. I spent the rest of the day in a fog thinking about what to do. I knew I couldn't just ignore it. If I stayed, I'd be living a lie. If I left, I'd lose everything, our house, my savings, years of effort. But more than that, I'd lose the woman I thought I knew, the woman I thought I married, the woman I thought I loved. And that realization hit me hard. I had to decide whether I was going to fight for my marriage or fight to reclaim my own life. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around her words, her betrayal, and what it all meant. I kept thinking about the house, the 401k, everything I'd worked so hard for. Jessica sat across from me, acting like she was the victim, like she was entitled to do whatever she wanted, and I was just supposed to accept it. I realized I couldn't. The next morning, I sat her down again. I told her I needed some space, that I couldn't keep living like this. I told her I was going to think things through and that I'd get back to her. She looked annoyed, like I was the one overreacting. She said, "Fine, take your time, but don't come crying to me later." I knew I had to be smart about what came next. I had no illusions about her suddenly changing. She'd lied to me, manipulated me, and now she was trying to act like everything was normal. I couldn't trust her anymore. I had to protect myself and my assets. Over the next few days, I started digging into our financials. I wanted to see exactly what I was dealing with, especially since I had a gut feeling Jessica might try to pull something. I accessed our bank accounts, our investment accounts, and our house records. Everything seemed normal on the surface, but I knew better than to trust her word now. I also started talking to a lawyer. I wanted to understand my rights and what I could do if things went south. The lawyer told me that I should be prepared for her to try to claim part of our house or our retirement funds, especially if she thought she could get away with it. That was a wake-up call. I realized I needed to prepare myself for a fight. Meanwhile, Jessica kept pushing for things to go back to normal, acting like she was the victim. She'd call me paranoid, accuse me of overreacting, and say I was being unfair. But I could see right through her. She was trying to manipulate me, to keep me quiet, to keep me from taking action. I refused to be played. One day, she made a comment that really stuck with me. She said, "You're just jealous because I found someone who actually cares about me. Mark makes me feel alive." That was the moment I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't just sit back and let her ruin everything I'd built. I had to take control before she destroyed me completely. That night, I sat in my home office going through our financial documents again. I realized her plan might be to try and take half of everything. Our house, our savings, everything I'd worked so hard for. I knew I had to act fast. I started drafting a plan to protect my assets, to make sure she couldn't just walk away with everything. I also started researching how to handle divorce proceedings just in case. Deep down, I knew this wasn't just about the money. It was about trust, respect, and my dignity. I couldn't let her manipulate me into giving her what she wanted. I had to be smart, calculated, and prepared. I knew I couldn't undo the betrayal, but I could at least control what was left, the things I had worked for all these years. It was the first step toward reclaiming my life from the chaos she had created. A few days later, I sat her down again. This time I told her I was done pretending everything was okay. I laid out my plan. I was going to file for divorce, protect my assets, and make sure she couldn't just walk away with half of everything. Her reaction was classic Jessica. She started crying, claiming I was ruining her life, that I was overreacting, and that she'd never do anything to hurt me intentionally. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her she had two choices. She could come clean and work with me to settle things fairly, or she could keep lying and face the consequences. She looked furious, like I was the one betraying her. Her face twisted into this bitchy sneer, and she snapped back. "You're just doing this because you're insecure. You think I'm cheating because you're a terrible husband. Maybe if you paid more attention, I wouldn't have to look elsewhere." That comment hit me hard, but I kept my cool. I knew her game. She was trying to turn the tables, make me feel guilty, and guilt-trip me into backing down. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I had seen her true colors, and I knew I had to act fast to protect what was mine. I went straight to my lawyer that same day. I laid out everything I'd found, and I asked him what my options were. He confirmed what I suspected, that she might try to claim half of our assets, including the house and the 401k. He advised me to gather all financial records, proof of my earnings, and any evidence of her affair. I started doing that immediately. I printed out all the messages, saved emails, and made copies of bank statements. I wanted to be prepared for whatever she threw at me. While all this was happening, Jessica kept pushing her narrative that I was the bad guy. She accused me of trying to control her, suppressing her happiness, and even started claiming I was embezzling money from our joint accounts. I was stunned. I knew she was lying, but I also knew I had to be careful. I didn't want to give her any reason to accuse me falsely or manipulate the situation further. One night, she threw a tantrum, screaming about how I was ruining her life and trying to take her freedom. She said she'd fight me in court, that she'd make sure I paid for what I did. That's when I realized she was serious about trying to take everything. Her bitchy, entitled attitude made it clear she thought she could get away with anything, but I was done playing her game. I made a decision. I was going to fight for my rights, for my property, and for my dignity. I knew she'd try to spin this as me being paranoid or controlling, but I wasn't going to let her. I was done being the nice guy who got betrayed and walked all over. From now on, I'd be strategic, calculated, and ready for whatever legal battles came my way. I couldn't undo the pain she caused, but I could make sure I protected what was mine and held her accountable for her lies and her betrayal. Over the next week, I really threw myself into getting everything organized. I met with my lawyer multiple times, gathering every piece of financial evidence I could find. I made detailed lists of our assets, our house, the 401k, savings accounts, even some investments I'd forgotten about. I wanted to have everything in order because I knew Jessica would try to spin things her way. I also started consulting a forensic accountant to see if she'd been hiding money or trying to divert funds. The last thing I needed was for her to pull some sneaky move and claim I was hiding assets to protect my own interests. Meanwhile, Jessica was still acting like the victim. She'd call me crying, claiming I was trying to ruin her life, and accusing me of sabotaging her happiness. She kept insisting that she didn't want a divorce, that she just needed more freedom and that she'd change. But I saw through her. I knew her game. She was just trying to buy time, hoping I'd back down or get tired of fighting. One day she even went as far as to say, "You're just jealous because I found someone who actually cares about me." Mark makes me feel alive. That was it. I'd finally had enough. I told her I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I explained that I was done with her lies, that I was going to protect my assets, and that I was filing for divorce. I told her I'd see her in court and she could try to spin her stories all she wanted, but I had the evidence to back me up. Her response, she snapped. Her bitchy side came out full force. She yelled, "You think you're so smart, huh? Just wait. I'll ruin you, David. I'll take everything, your house, your money, everything you think you own. You're not getting away with this." Her eyes flashed with anger and contempt. I knew she was serious. She thought she was entitled, that she could lie her way out of everything and come out on top. I didn't flinch. I knew I was doing the right thing. I had to be strategic. I told her I'd be prepared to fight her in court, and I would do everything in my power to protect what was mine. I also made sure I had a solid plan to get full custody of our joint assets, especially the house. I wasn't about to let her walk away with half of everything I'd worked so hard for, especially after what she'd done. That night I sat alone in the house I built with her, feeling a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had a plan, and dread because I knew the fight was just beginning. I looked around at the place that once symbolized our life together, now feeling like I realized I'd have to play hardball from here on out. Jessica was not going down without a fight, and I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I had to stand my ground, protect my future, and somehow find a way to move on from the betrayal that had shattered everything I believed in. The court date finally arrived after months of legal back and forth, and I felt like I was walking into a battlefield. Jessica showed up looking manipulative and bitchy as ever, trying to play the victim, but I had the evidence, the witnesses, and the legal backing to fight her accusations. I knew she'd try to twist everything, to claim I was trying to hide assets, to say I was an embezzler, even though I'd never touched our money illegally. I stayed calm, focused on my case, and let the facts speak for themselves. The judge listened carefully to both sides. Jessica was quick to lie, claiming I was controlling, that I'd been embezzling from our joint accounts, and that I was trying to keep her from her rights. But I had bank statements, emails, and the forensic accountant's report that proved she'd been hiding money herself, diverting funds to secret accounts, trying to shield her assets from the divorce. It was clear she'd been planning her move for a while. After a long day, the judge ruled in my favor. She awarded me full custody of the house, the 401k, and most of our savings. Jessica was furious. She screamed and called me a liar, but I didn't care anymore. I felt a strange sense of relief, knowing I'd protected what I worked so hard for. The judge also ordered her to pay my legal costs because her accusations were unfounded and malicious. Jessica's bitchy attitude didn't change after the ruling. She continued to scream and threaten, but I was done. I had taken everything I could from her lies, and I finally felt like I was regaining control of my life. I moved out of the house, leaving her behind to deal with the mess she created. It hurt, realizing how much I'd lost: trust, stability, future I thought we shared. But I knew I had to focus on rebuilding. In the weeks that followed, I slowly started to heal. I found a new apartment, got a new job, and began working on my own happiness. I learned a lot from this nightmare, about betrayal, trust, and the importance of protecting yourself. I also realized that sometimes you have to fight hard to defend what's yours, especially when someone you love turns out to be someone you barely recognize. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I also know I did everything I could to save what was left of my life. I hope others in similar situations remember: don't let anyone manipulate or betray you. Protect your assets, stand your ground, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Love is supposed to build you up, not tear you down. And in the end, the truth always comes out, even if it takes some legal battles to get there.